organization and culture. Okay, that's just an idea. Keep that in mind. Okay. More definitions. Are you guys doing okay? You okay? Am I speaking slowly enough? Can you understand me? Even if you, I tell you guys, even if you don't understand, just say yes. I understand. If you say no, I will become very sad. Okay, cross-cultural communication, or sometimes intercultural communication. Easy. Any communication between people from different backgrounds. Here it says different cultural backgrounds. Okay? So cross-cultural communication, any communication between people from different Americans and Taiwanese, mathematicians and creative writers, IT service people and business customers. Okay? They all come from a different culture. They're all having cross-cultural communication. On the level of individuals, departments, organizations, governments, the idea of culture having a major influence on the communication process. Okay, cross-cultural communication. Questions about that? Okay. That's pretty simple. So, cross-cultural management also an academic field. Also an academic field. Actually, my MA is cross-cultural administration. So this is what I did my master's in. Okay, cross-cultural management describes organizational behavior within countries and cultures, compares organizational behaviors across countries and cultures, and seeks to understand and improve the interaction when these different cultures come together. Okay, so that's cross-cultural management. How to manage cross-cultural interaction at an organizational level. That's a traditional definition of cross-cultural management. Okay, Nancy Adler. Been around a long time. That book has 6 or 8 editions already. Been around a long time. Okay, that's traditional cross-cultural management. That idea, that traditional cross-cultural management creates a kind of a problem. Because it says culture 1 and culture 2 are very different, and when we bring together culture 1 and culture 2, we're going to have problems. That's the traditional view of cross-cultural management, and it's been present in organizational studies and business and management for 20 or 30 years. I used to be a cross-cultural trainer. I did this kind of stuff. I said, if you're going to Korea, you better watch out, because they do things differently, and you better not make this mistake, and you better not make that mistake, and if you do this, you're going to get everybody really mad at you. Okay, and that's what we did. That's what we told people. Be careful. So now we don't really like that anymore, because it's too negative. So this guy, Nigel Holden, who I introduced before, he said, if we have culture 1 and culture 2, why don't we try to create a new culture, culture 3? Okay. And in this view, culture and knowledge of culture becomes an organizational resource, an organizational asset. And then cross-cultural management becomes the application of this knowledge asset. And then cross-cultural management becomes a form of knowledge management. Right? Completely different way of looking at cross-cultural interaction. Okay, do you understand that difference? Quite critical difference. Okay, so to summarize that then, the old way, culture is a problem. We must anticipate it, we must control it, and we must limit it. Or as an opportunity. It becomes what Drucker said. a source of competitive advantage. The more I know about different cultures, the more competitive my company can be. Any question? I'm moving through kind of quickly, so you can slow me down if you want. Okay. This guy, Nigel Holden, his book, I think, has been translated into Chinese. Maybe worth reading. Okay, so again, same thing, again. The key thing now about cross-cultural management is not to neutralize or to contain cultural differences, but to build on them, to learn from them. Building on them means fostering cross-cultural learning and participation. So now, every time you meet somebody from a different culture, it's an opportunity to learn. Every time your organization opens up a factory in a different country, it's an opportunity to learn. Every time your organization opens up a new market, it's an opportunity to learn. Before, it was something to worry about. Okay, now we come back to this new view of culture, what I kind of told you before. Culture based on shared or partly shared patterns of meaning and interpretation. So I can get on the board here. My PhD research was virtual teams. That's okay. In virtual teams, team members may be in different parts of the world, but they communicate through technology. Okay, so you're right. So let's say I have team members in different parts of the world. When they get together in here, over time, if they can create shared or partly shared meanings, shared knowledge, then they are creating a kind of team culture in here. If they can do that, the team might be successful. These patterns are produced and reproduced and changed all the time through interaction, through social interaction and talking and building relationships. If these guys build a culture, ABC culture, and then a new member from a different country comes in, they have to start that process again, right? Until they got ABCD culture. And if this person is in another team, he has to go, or she has to go, whatever, form another culture. So this person, when they're in this team, they have this culture. When they turn their computer to another place, they have that culture. But they can change as they wish. So it changes all the time. People's identification and affiliation are subject to change. So the point is, all of this is based on an environment and based on shared meaning, shared knowledge. And that shared meaning and shared knowledge is really through social interaction. Okay, so now we can talk about culture as relationship and context. Relationship and context. This is kind of interesting because this is really what Chinese guanxi and things are like. It's really quite similar to that when you think about it. That process of forming little virtual teams of culture actually is not easy to do. It's not easy to do because people are people and people are difficult. Okay? People are complex systems. People are not predictable. So doing that, although it's easy to draw a picture of the board, It's not hard. It's not easy to do when you're really trying to do it. And that's actually what my thesis was about. My PhD thesis was about that. How to. My PhD thesis was really about how to do this in a virtual team. Okay, any questions on this? Sorry?
You tell me about PhD someone have I don't know your PhD.
My PhD.
Yeah.
You know what a PhD is?
博士，学博士，博士论文，professor Pauline 的博士论文做的实际上就是这个 virtual team 这样的一个研究。
In my PhD research, well, basically I interviewed people who were in virtual teams or just becoming interested in this a long time before virtual teams were very common. But they all said they thought they needed to know the people they were dealing with. They needed to build a relationship with the people they were dealing with. So that's kind of what's being talked about here. I didn't understand it like that. Okay? So culture is relationship and context. Context means environment, kind of like environment. Okay, so now we can call cross-cultural management. We can redefine it. Basically, like I said before, every time an employee goes to a different country, or every time an employee meets somebody from a different country, or every time an employee gets an email and sends an email to someone in a different country, is a chance to learn. Every time an organization opens a factory in another country or opens up a sales office in another country, that's an interface, and it's an opportunity to learn. Okay, so cross-cultural management will be how does somebody manage, how does an organization manage all those interactions? How do they manage the learning that you may have when you meet somebody from a different culture? And how do you bring it back into the organization so everyone in the organization can share that knowledge? Okay, that becomes cross-cultural knowledge management. That's the challenge. Okay. Is that clear? Kind of? So it's a lot of words, but basically every time, interface, every time I meet someone from a different culture for my organization, what can I learn? How can I learn? How can I take it back to the organization? How can the organization learn? So cross-cultural management, as knowledge management, is a kind of leadership opportunity. Okay, there are maybe three ways of looking at it. These are kind of related to information systems, interactive global networking, maybe team working, and maybe organizational learning. So let's think about that. You guys all belong to social networks? Are you on Facebook and all that? Are you on LinkedIn? Anybody on LinkedIn? Are any of you working? You got jobs? So your social networks are Facebook. That's a real social network. Have you heard of LinkedIn? LinkedIn is a professional social network. Okay. What's the name of LinkedIn? Chinese.
We'll just say
LinkedIn. Basically, that's Facebook for working people, professionals. Okay. And what it is that it's a network. LinkedIn, for example, is a network to resources. Human resources. Some companies will use LinkedIn to find out if they need a new employee, they need to hire someone. They might check LinkedIn to find out what kind of people are out there who have the skills that they need. Okay, they can find that out on LinkedIn. So it's a pathway to a human resource. If I'm writing some special paper or I'm doing research, I might go to LinkedIn to see if I can find out